guys, welcome to another Fresh RN podcast episode. I'm finally back. We're starting to record more episodes now, which I'm so excited about. So this episode is going to be an answer to a question I get all the time. Is nursing sustainable? We hear a lot about how you'll always get a job and nursing school is really difficult, and you get through it and you're like, okay, I'm so excited to get through it, to start this career, I've done all the hard work and I'm ready to start my career. And then you get on the unit and you see a lot of grumpy people and you see like how hard not only is it physically to do, but the mental and emotional toll. So people want to know, can I do this for 30 years? Is this like, what do I do when I get to a point where I feel like, okay, I'm challenged enough, and I'm getting a little bored. I'm getting a little complacent. Now I know that learning never stops as a nurse, of course, but something that happens too is you get to this point, a lot of people after a year or two, probably closer to 2 years, you can handle any situation that comes on the unit. You feel really confident in yourself, you know what you're doing, and you can get a little bored. I'm not saying you know everything about nursing at all, but it's just you might kind of hit this like plateau where you're like, okay, is this what I have to do the rest of my life? So, and you also get to where it's like, man, this is a tough schedule. I know I only work 3 days a week, but my goodness, it's challenging. Or maybe you're someone who you're starting to have a family and you want to be able to go to certain games or have holidays off, or do you want more of a predictable schedule? Or maybe you're really tired of getting those calls every single day off for you to come in. So, getting to the point of deciding, okay, what do I do at this point? Or can I do this forever? My answer is yes. But you have to be very intentional about how you structure your career to continue to be able to actively care for patients for the duration of it, okay? I don't want you to turn into someone who's like, I hate my job, but this is this job or what I went to school for. And you turn into that grumpy nurse that nobody wants to see and be around and is completely jaded and is providing care at the level that they learned 20 years ago and doesn't want to learn new things and is jaded by any change that comes. We don't want that. Don't want that. So what can this look like successfully, right? We don't want to like just get through, muddle through and have this subpar career, right? We want to enjoy it. And we also want to enjoy our time off. And also there's a financial perspective too. I think we tend to think, okay, I have to work my way up at a company and I'll just stay there. And through that, I'm going to work my way up and that's how I'm going to make the most money. And for a lot of people, it's making the most money, but there's so much more to earning power than money. So I would love to give you a scenario because a lot of people think, okay, I have to become a nurse practitioner to raise my level of income, or there's this ceiling as a nurse that I just can't break as a bedside nurse. But what's interesting is we can, when you're making a normal nurse salary, it depends on how much workable income you have in terms of how you use it. So let me throw a couple scenarios at you. Let's say that you're a nurse who makes about $55,000 a year. Okay. Let me do my math. Let's say it's about $4,500 a month. And you work your 312s. And let's say you work anywhere from 36 to 40 hours a week, because we all know you stay extra or do whatever. So let's say you work 40 hours a week roughly with this making about $55K a year. Okay. And that, of course, that's going to completely change depending upon where you are in the country, but let's just go with that for right now. Let's say you've got maybe a $1,500 mortgage. Maybe you've got $400 in school loans a month. Maybe you're putting $500 away a month in retirement, which is wonderful. You should totally do that if you're not already put money into retirement. Anyways, and let's say maybe you're someone who's driving an older car, you and your spouse, you don't have car payments, but you don't have the nicest car, but you got one that works and does fine, and you don't have a car payment. So let's say you add all that together. That is about $2,100 left to work with after those living expenses. Okay. Let's contrast that to a physician who's making $150,000 a year. So that's a lot more than 55, right? A lot more. But what if this physician works like 80 hours a week, right? So that's double what you're doing, right? And that would turn out into about $12,500 a month. Now, usually what you see when people bump up their income level is their style of living goes up with it. So let's say that person who's making $150K has a $5,000 mortgage. And also if you're a provider, you've got to have some malpractice insurance. That is very expensive for providers. I looked up average liability insurance or malpractice insurance for like an internal med doctor. That's like $26,000 a year. So that's like the average. So I went a little below that. So let's say you have $2,000 a month for that. You got your $5,000 mortgage, and physicians typically have hired a lot more student loans. So let's say they have $1,500 a month in student loan payments. And maybe with that higher cost of living, maybe they're like, I want to have a real nice car. I want my spouse to have a real nice car. And we get new cars every few years. So we always have a high car payment. So let's say they're paying $1,100 a month in car payments. So that leaves, after all of that, that would leave you with $2,900 a month. And if you got a bigger home, you've got bigger expenses in terms of a bigger utility bill, bigger water bill, that kind of stuff. So, this nurse working 40 hours a week, saving for retirement, has that $2,100 left over. And this physician working double that only has about $800 more a month to work with for the rest of their living expenses. So it really depends. Like, even if you don't have this high earning job, you can definitely make some choices in how you spend your money and where you kind of enjoy your money, and make that go a lot farther. So that whole, I have to work to earn the most possible, it depends on how you're spending it. And I kind of think about that, like with nursing and us trying to, maximize our time, well, maximizing your money too, right? Like, I mean, if you have a car and you do a new car every couple years, like that is you're spending a lot of money on car payments, and cars depreciate, meaning their value goes down immediately once you buy a brand new car. So like, that kind of stuff, big picture, is not going to give you a great ROI, return on investment. So when you are thinking about what is sustainable for me as a nurse, I don't want you to look at it through a lens of, I have to make the most money possible. I want you to consider being smart with the money that you're making and having it go as far as possible. And I love this philosophy. It's where you scrimp and save on the things you don't really care that much about, but that leaves you room to and cut mercilessly, is that the right word? Mercilessly on the things that, you don't really care that much about, but then really enjoy the things that you're going to spend money on. So like for me, I don't get my nails done. I don't get my hair done. I don't like that. I don't care that much about it. I don't like, jewelry. That's not my jam. I don't know. I don't spend money on that kind of stuff. And, I don't even remember the last time I got my nails done. And I don't dye my hair. I don't do that kind of, that's just not my jam. My husband and I, we're not big car people. Like, we want a car to get us from A to B. We don't want the brand new fancy car. So we bought something that was affordable that we could pay cash for because we were saving for a while. And we drove a 2000 Camry up until this year. Like, we had a 20-year-old car, and our other car is 10 years old. It doesn't even faze me because I don't really care about cars that much. But you know what we care about? I care about buying things like really good organic groceries. I like to spend money on, I bought like a really nice water filter for our whole house. Like, I would much rather spend that than like go to the salon. Those kinds of things, or experiences like trips, that kind of stuff I like to spend money on. And books. I have a thing where I have a budget. I have budgeted monthly where if there's a book that I'm even remotely interested in, I buy it. If I can get one piece of information out of it, I got it. I love it. And it's my guilt-free budget thing where I don't think twice about it and I get to enjoy it. And it's not this stress, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. It's like, no, I've created this in my budget to allow that for me. So that's like how we have chosen to approach money. And it actually really frees you up and also removes a lot of like guilt where, oh, I have to just save all the most possible. So I hope that helps as we lay this foundation of, is nursing sustainable? Because we do look at it through a financial lens. So let's also think about people who successfully maintain being a nurse for a long time. Maybe it's at the bedside, or maybe it's doing a multitude of things. What kind of characteristics do we have of those people? So let me tell you who it's not. It's not someone who says yes to everything and then complains about it. It's not someone who is just constantly exhausted and burnt out and complaining. It's not someone who never challenges themselves or goes and does something that is important to them. That's not who I'm talking about. What I'm talking about are people who leverage their position as a nurse, not as this all-encompassing identity, but more so as a tool, okay? It's a different way to think about nursing. I think that we tend to think it's a calling and it's this aspect of our identity, and it's all-encompassing, and that's what we're meant to do. I'm meant to do these things for people. While I certainly appreciate it, when you do have that like foundation or that lens, I guess, that you're looking at yourself, it's very easy to get taken advantage of by your employer, because if you're viewing your job as a duty to your community, it is much more than a job, right? And my encouragement, though, is to view this not as all of who you are, but as an aspect of something that you do that provides you personal and professional satisfaction and joy and ability to serve the community, while also providing you income and benefits in return, right? It's not everything that you are, because if you have that mentality, you're always going to say yes to overtime. You're always going to say yes to things that don't actually serve you, because you feel the duty to constantly show up. But what happens then is you miss out on your life. Like, we are not born to just work ourselves into the ground and try to make as much money as possible. That's not how you sustainably stay in this profession. That's how you get burnout real quick and leave. So when you get to that point where you're really clocking in with confidence, you kind of know what you're doing, but you're like, okay, how long can I do this? First think about, am I challenged enough? Maybe it's not something that you're feeling challenged with at work, so you're getting a little checked out. So one of the ways that you can kind of dig deeper back in to get some more challenge your way is things like, maybe you want to get on a committee at the hospital. So I got on shared governance. I did a lot of shared governance. I actually did it for my unit. Then I did it for the professional practice council. And then I did it for our whole facility. Which was really great. When I did that, I enjoyed that. I have done risk management committee. I've done magnet champion, fall committee, like those kinds of things. There's a lot of opportunities with that kind of stuff. And it gives you just another way to leverage your degree, your role, make some money, where you're not actively running around the bedside. And one of the things that I did, because my shared governance role took up so much time, was I negotiated with my manager and said, hey, you know what? I have to do X amount of hours for shared governance. What about the days like this, every 2 weeks, I only work 2 12s, and then I do my shared governance time during then, so I'm not going into overtime. And then that really helped me, because I had a day of the week where I was not running around the bedside. And it helped me enjoy that role longer, because I needed a little bit of a break from the constant 12 and being at the bedside. And that helped my manager, because she needed someone to fill those roles. So it was very mutually beneficial. I just had to ask. So that's one option for you, to look into those kinds of things while you're maintaining that full-time position. But what if you are to the point where like working full-time, meaning 3 12s, is just like, I can't hang. Like, I don't like doing it anymore. While I can do it, I don't want to do it. And there's no shame in that. 3 12s is a lot of work. It is exhausting. And it's especially exhausting if every day you're off, you're getting called to say, hey, you want to come in? Right? That's not fun. So there's other things that you can do. you can always decide to go you can see if you can go maybe full part-time or PRN in your position and then supplement your income with a different position. Okay. A lot of people do that. And there's a beautiful thing about nursing is you can kind of craft your dream career into what you want it to be, because it does not have to be full-time at a hospital for 30 years. It doesn't. It could be part-time at a hospital and part-time at an immunization clinic so that you can still maintain your income level and still take care of patients because you enjoy it, but also give you a little bit of a break, right? So here's some different options. You could always, if you're entirely done with inpatient nursing, which is totally fine. That happens with people. They're just like, I just don't want to do that anymore. You can do outpatient. There's nothing wrong with that. I used to think that I wasn't a real nurse if I wasn't in a hospital, but goodness, nurses are everywhere. And I know so many people who decided to go outpatient, and it was a wonderful decision for them. It was a great part of their season of life where they needed to have holidays and they needed to have some time off that was predictable. They needed better hours. They were tired of night shift or whatever it was, or just that go where it's not just so busy that you're tired and everything, but you're also very mentally exhausted because it's like patients are relying on you to stay alive, especially in those critical care areas. That's a lot of mental weight to carry for a long period of time. So there's a lot of people who will say, okay, I'm done at least for a little while. I can't do this right now. And then they'll go outpatient for a while in some capacity. And that really improves their work-life balance significantly. So other things that you can do. Of course, outpatient nursing, in just like a clinic or something like that. You can also become a school nurse. School nursing is a big area of nursing, especially if you're a pediatric nurse. That's a wonderful amount of experience to bring to that role. Telehealth is a great one. I know people who they do have telehealth options in like critical care. I mean, these are probably in more urban areas, but this is a new thing where people can sit on a desk. They look at vital signs, they look at intake and output, they look at labs, they look at assessments and everything like that, and remotely monitor the patient. And then if something's going on, they call the nurse and say, hey, this lab is back. I ran this protocol. This patient needs this much potassium. Can you verify it with me? I will put in the order, like that kind of stuff. So you're actually like really critical thinking, really using your critical thinking skills that you've worked so hard to earn, right? And exercising them, but you're not actually at the bedside doing the bedside stuff. So it can be a great middle ground for people. Insurance companies use nurses a lot for various roles. You can also do some other roles that are not necessarily where you would be full time, but like, I don't know if you've ever heard of expert witnesses for nurses. So what happens is there are various organizations, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes for this. So, if there's litigation, a hospital or the other side, either side needs a third party, someone not involved, but who understands how to provide nursing care in the capacity where it was provided, and review the chart to say, hey, did they meet this standard of care? Did they do everything they were supposed to do? And then you review the chart and you charge hourly to review a chart. You might get deposed and you might have to testify, but guys, that pays very well. Let's see. I've only done it once, and I talked to some other people who have done it, and they helped me figure out like how much I should charge. Because what happens is like this law firm will reach out to you if you're on like a list or a database or something, and they'll say, hey, what are your fees? So I talked to someone and they were like, you need to charge $300 an hour to review this chart. So I made like $1,000 just reviewing a chart, and that was years ago. So I'm sure it would be more now. And then if you have to do a deposition, then you charge even more an hour. And then if you have to do testimony, you charge even more. So if you're like as available to do those and review things as needed for certain, on like a database, you can make a great living from that. But one of the things that you do have to, consider is, you are going to probably have to testify and do that kind of stuff and kind of mentally be prepared for that. But it's a wonderful option. You can also do things like a biometric screening clinic, immunization clinic. And while I record this right now, a lot of people are getting COVID immunizations. And I know a lot of people who have decided as nurses to, work those. I mean, while that won't be permanent because we're not going to be doing this, huge push like we are right now, that there's a great opportunity to make some more money and like diversify a little bit. You can also do like an agency job where it's like a PRN kind of thing. You could do cardiac rehab or pre-assessment testing. You could be a clinical instructor for a nursing school. Public health has different positions that they could do where you utilize a nursing degree. And again, insurance companies too. So there's lots of different ways that you can leverage yourself, leverage your knowledge and everything to kind of craft this career that is perfect for you. It does not have to be dictated by your hospital. Like this degree is so versatile. Like, even with mine, like I have, it's taken a while, but figured out exactly what I want to do. And I'm like this nurse educator who's self-employed. Like I'm my own employer. So I don't have to answer to a hospital, which is really nice. I mean, there's, downsides in that I'm not actually with a patient at the bedside, but you know what? I have this degree where if I want to go back, I absolutely can. So I just encourage you to kind of do a little bit of a self-assessment and think, hey, do I want to stay full-time? And if I do want to stay full-time, how can I make that work for me in a way that is sustainable for me? Not for everybody else, but for me. And if that means, doing only 1 or 2 12s and doing something else, or if that means only working part-time and then picking up somewhere else where you're not actively seeing patients all day, like that, there's no shame in what it looks like for you, because at the end of the day, this is your life. And this is not to prove something to somebody else, but this is the life that you walk through every day. And I saw on Instagram the other day, this post that somebody shared. It was this guy said that his colleague passed away. It wasn't a nurse. It was just this guy was tweeting that his colleague unexpectedly passed away. And they sent out an email to the company to say, hey, this person passed away, and, condolences and all that. And half an hour later, and another email went out to the company and it said, this position is available now. And it's the position that the person who passed away had. I say all that to say, this life is your own. You only have the time that you're here to make it look like you want it to. And I don't want people to just feel like they have to wait until they retire to enjoy life. Because as we know, as nurses who see people die all the time, and many before they retire, many before they get to that point. And I would hate for us to just miss out on so much life to live, living it in a way that is not optimal for us. So that's my encouragement, is to figure out what it is for you, what your ideal kind of situation would look like. And truly the first step is probably the hardest one. Maybe you sit down and you say, hey, you know what? I would love to apply for the immunization clinic in my town and go part-time. And between those two, I will make enough income to kind of make it worth it. And I'm going to do that. And the hardest thing is that first step. But once you kind of get the ball rolling, it keeps going. And then before you know it, you've got that little reality shock of the changes happening. But then when you're in that new position and in that new setup that you took time to advocate for yourself to do, boy, that's rewarding and amazing. So I do have some resources I'll share with you guys. So all of these links will be at freshrn.com/53. Okay. 53. freshrn.com/53. That is going to be where I have my show notes for this. And also if you go to freshrn.com/podcast, you can just scroll down to the podcast title, Is This Sustainable? So the first one I want to tell you about is this book. If the financial stuff was really interesting to you and you want to look at how you can kind of tweak your financial situation to maximize the money that you're making and cut mercifully in those areas that you don't really care as much about, so that you can enjoy those areas of your life that you and guilt-free spending in those areas. So this is one of my favorite books. It's I will teach you to be rich. It sounds a little scammy, doesn't it? Like I'll teach you to be rich, but it's not. You can see I have mine highlighted and bookmarked because it is this 6-week plan to say, okay, here's how you kind of get your system of finances automated. You get it working for you. You get yourself, saving for retirement appropriately. Because I think so many of us worry about, I'll never have enough money for retirement, kids savings and all that kind of stuff. Well, this just gives you an actionable way to walk through all of that. And it's for me, it saved me thousands and thousands of dollars. So it's been very helpful for me. So I encourage that. It's on Amazon. I'll have a link to it in the show notes. The expert nurse witness, I do have a resource of one that I have gone through. I actually personally know the person who does the site and is a phenomenal nurse expert witness and just a nurse in general. And I actually met her through the National Nurses in Business Association. She's got a wonderful setup. So I'll put that in there too. And then also my favorite resource is something put out by Kelsey at Whole Life Nurse. It's called Crafting Your Dream Career. I will put a link to that in my show notes as well. It's a monthly subscription where she goes over how to actually do this and how to figure out what is the best thing for you, how to set boundaries, how to negotiate, how to figure out what my dream career looks like, and then how do I go through it, go for it? Because, it answers a lot of really common questions. Like a lot of people say, okay, if I stop going full time at my job, then my health insurance is going to double. I can't afford to do that. What are my other options? Or here's how it actually would play out financially if you were to do that. And she actually talks with a lawyer and different things in there that are helpful for people considering, doing these non-traditional career paths for nurses. So I can't remember what the monthly cost is, but it is in there. It's very affordable. I think it's less than $20 and you can cancel it whenever you want. But it's a wonderful resource that I wish was available at the beginning of my career, because I think that creating the boundaries is such an important cornerstone of our career so that we can get the most out of it. Because y'all, you paid for your nursing degree. You paid thousands and thousands of dollars for it. It needs to work for you, uniquely you, not everybody, not the cookie cutter, get a job in a hospital, work there for 30 years and work your way up the ladder. No, everybody is different with what they want to do with their career, and you paid for your degree, so you might as well have it work for you the way that's going to work for you best. So I hope that helps. I hope that makes sense. Last time is freshrn.com/53, and I'll have some resources on there for you. Thanks, guys.
Blaze and clear the room. You walked in and we're all doomed. So hazy, smoke in the air, from your lips to your legs to your hips to your hair. Sound the alarm and evacuate. I want you to myself, but I can't wait. 98, 99, 100 degrees.